So the round of 16 has dropped. All of the different matches that we're going to have been released. And there's a lot of interesting matchups that I want to talk about. And I just wanted to say before we really get into this video, this is not going to be a predictions video. I plan on doing that sometime next week. A little bit more of an in-depth look at kind of what we're going to be expecting, what we're going to be seeing. This is more just looking at the actual matchups just on a kind of face value standpoint. Like, oh, it's this team and this team. This might be fun, this might not be fun, etc., etc. It's not going to be very detailed, but it's more just my initial thoughts on the actual matchup itself. So if you're interested in the prediction video, that will be out sometime next week. Feel free to subscribe if you're not a regular over here, because I will definitely be getting that up. But let's get into the video now. So first we have PSG versus Chelsea, and this is a rematch from the summer, from the World Cup, or the Club World Cup, where Chelsea won 3-0 over PSG. I don't really know what to make of that result at this point because, number one, the teams are different now, and number two, Maresca was the coach of Chelsea. Now it's Liam Rossigna. This is just a whole different regime at Chelsea. So again, we'll dive more into that result if we need to in the predictions video. But I think just on paper, this is a really, really fun matchup. Again, it's a fixture we saw over the summer, so there will definitely be some juice just from that. The players are at least somewhat familiar in playing each other. And I also think this is just going to be a great game for neutrals. Both these teams like to attack. They like to be more of a high-scoring team. And we've seen deficiencies really in both of their games. I mean, Chelsea has still struggled to be consistent. Their most recent fixture in the Premier League was against Burnley, where they conceded a late-minute goal that resulted in a draw. So they're susceptible for goals. And then, as we just saw in the UCL just a few days ago, PSG had to, number one, make a 3-0 comeback. So they were down 2-0, and then they at least scored 3 goals straight. So it was 3-2 heading into the second leg. But they still had to battle off of Monaco. Monaco was putting up a pretty decent fight, and I don't think I touched on that as much in my TikTok, that Monaco was able to score on PSG. I liked what PSG did with their attack, but that's also expected against a French side especially. So I think we're going to see a lot of high scoring in this. I think, again, just from a neutral standpoint, it's two big teams. It's, again, the team that just won the UCL, the team that just won the Club World Cup. Again, they played for the title in the summer. There's a lot going into it, but I think this could be a really, really fun result for neutrals, because I just think it's going to be a lot of attacking football. Next, we have Galatasaray versus Liverpool, and the last time these two teams played, it resulted actually in a Galatasaray win 1-0 versus Liverpool back in September for the group stage. That was a really, really long time ago, so again, the teams are different, but both teams are still, I guess, somewhat in similar situations. Liverpool was still trying to get their body of work figured out, and honestly, I still don't know what to make of them. They're an inconsistent team that is inconsistent in the Premier League, but they're doing all right in the UCL, and Galatasaray just had one of the craziest matches versus why am I blanking? Juventus, and they honestly put up a great showing. Now, Liverpool is going to be better quality-wise, but I think especially that first leg in Galatasaray is going to be huge. We see how big, the home field advantage is for that team, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that's where Liverpool lost earlier in the year. So they're definitely susceptible. I think Liverpool will win, but again, I think this is an interesting matchup just because Liverpool didn't beat them earlier in the UCL, and again, Galatasaray are just on some really, really great form, again, defeating Juventus. So I think this is going to be a good one for neutrals all around. Definitely a stressful one for fans that are involved with the clubs, but I think this is going to be another good one. Next, we have Real Madrid versus Manchester City. This is a fixture that we're starting to get used to at this point. I mean, these teams play, it feels like, every other year. They just played actually on December 10th. Manchester City went to the Bernabeu and won 2-1. And I think even though that was a great result at the time, and I'm not taking anything away from it for Manchester City, you got to feel better, in my opinion, if you're a City fan now, because you have Semenyo and you have Guehi. So you have more reinforcements. Madrid, I don't know, honestly, just because they're still fighting for where they want to be in the league. Not saying Manchester City aren't, but you're now not with Xabi Alonso. You have a new manager. You're still balancing these type of things. I think Mbappe will be ready for the first leg against Manchester City, but we will have to see. But regardless, there's obviously a lot of drama with these two teams. Madrid actually knocked out Manchester City last year in the UCL for the playoff, and then of course in the treble season in 2023. Well, I guess the 24 season, but it was 2024 year. You guys know what I mean. Manchester City won the treble, and to get to the UCL final, they had to beat Real Madrid. But then the year prior to that, Real Madrid had that crazy comeback. So there's a lot of history in this fixture. I think for a neutral standpoint, I don't know anyone that's going to be mad about watching this. Some people do seem to be a tad fatigued, but I'm excited for it. I think this is two teams that are going to give us an interesting product, definitely an entertaining one. And again, I think Manchester City are going to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder for what happened last year. So I think this is going to be a really good one. But so far, the UCL has been cooking. Now, this is where the UCL takes a slight step back. We have Atalanta versus Bayern. I'm going to make this quick. Bayern are going to be the clear favorites. They're definitely the better team. No slight to Atalanta, but there's just different levels to this. There's different levels. But if you do want to say anything for Atalanta going into this is that, hey, they made that comeback against Dortmund. They just beat a team in the Bundesliga, so maybe that helps them out a little bit. I'm really not sure. Definitely still favoring Bayern in this one, but I think it still could maybe be interesting for a little bit. But I see Bayern pulling this one away. Not going to really stretch this out because there just isn't much to say. Now, this is one that I am excited for. Newcastle are playing Barcelona, and the last time these two teams played was also in the group phase back in September, where Barcelona went into Newcastle and won 2-1, all without Lamine Yamal as well. This has been an interesting season really for both teams. Barcelona right now are fighting for the top of the league in the La Liga. This is not the season that Newcastle have won it in the Premier League, and both of them are still able to kind of try to qualify for other cups. I mean, Barcelona is really, really struggling versus Atletico Madrid, but there are still some other competitions for Newcastle to try to get something out of. So there's something there. We'll see. But I think I'm going to at least be favoring Barcelona just because, again, they went to Newcastle and beat them all without Lamine Yamal. But you never know. Barcelona has been incredibly inconsistent this year, but so is Newcastle. It's really just the battle of inconsistent teams. And I guess we're going to see which team is more consistent. That's really how I'm looking at this. Next, we have Atletico versus Spurs. This is an interesting one because Atletico have been not really doing the best in league form. I checked before going on this or before making this video, but of course they are in the round of 16 now, and they didn't qualify, but they made it through the playoffs. And also, they're up right now 4-0 against Barcelona in the Copa del Rey. So there are still some things going their way. So we'll have to see how that goes, but they're, I guess, in decent form. It's not really where they want to be league-wise, but in their other competitions, I think they're probably satisfied. Tottenham, they're in a different spot. The fact that they even qualify for the round of 16 without having to go to the playoffs is kind of wild for the UCL, but they're fighting in a relegation battle right now in the Premier League. And I heard this on TikTok, and I'm curious if any Spurs fans watch this, please let me know. Would you guys almost wish that you weren't in the UCL? Because from a Spurs fan, I saw them say, look, even though it's exciting to be in the Champions League, all of that, this is just another game that players are going to have to rotate and is going to lead to more fatigue. It seems like, at least for Spurs fans that I've seen online, they definitely are more worried about staying up than the Champions League. So curious to see what happens. And again, I really don't know what to make of either of these teams' forms because they've also been inconsistent. But it's really my biggest factor when looking at this is the fact that Tottenham has been all right in the Champions League, but then you look at them in the Premier League and it's just not there. They have a new manager now. Really don't know what to I guess think about this one. We'll see what I do with my predictions, but definitely going to be an interesting one because this is really a wild card in my opinion. Next, we have Bodo versus Sporting, and I'm actually happy that this one is getting played out with the teams that we got. I think Bodo deserve to keep going on this run. They've been having a crazy run. They just beat Inter 5-2 over 2 legs, especially closing it out in the San Siro as well, and they beat other teams in the group phase as well. So I'm impressed with what they've been doing. I haven't watched a ton of Sporting, just going to be honest, but just doing some research prior to this video, they are at least 4 points out right now and fighting currently. I think they're actually playing while I'm recording this. They're fighting for, to slowly close the gap for the Champions League, their league title against Porto. So this is going to be interesting. I think both sides definitely are a little bit more easily favored against each other than compared to more of the European giants, but I'll say this: Bodo have been playing some fantastic football, so I'm definitely not going to count them out. They're definitely an interesting watch. Again, haven't watched a ton of Sporting, so I'm not going to pretend to know a ton about them. But I think just from a fixture standpoint, I'm glad both of these teams are playing against each other because it's definitely more fair than, let's say, Bodo gets Arsenal and Sporting gets Bayern. We all know the results of those realistically, so I think this will be a good two-leg matchup. Very, very excited for this one. Last, we have my club, Arsenal versus Bayern Leverkusen. Arsenal are in great form right now, at least in the Champions League. I mean, they literally were the top of the table going into this, so they deserve this type of position to be in, and I definitely say they're one of the favorites moving forward. In the league, they did just get a massive win against Tottenham, so they're still fighting for that title, but overall, Arsenal are still in all competitions, so I think you got to be feeling pretty good if you're an Arsenal fan. And Leverkusen, they've had an interesting season. They're currently 6th in Bundesliga, which is not where they want to be, but they've had some managerial changes earlier in the season. But in the UCL, they've qualified for the round of 16. They just beat Club Brugge pretty soundly, even though it was 2-0. They beat them pretty confidently, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens with them. With this one, I think Arsenal are definitely favored. I'm not going to lie and pretend like this is going to be some back and forth battle. I do think Arsenal will probably win this. We just have to see. And also another wrinkle for this is the fact that Hincapié is on loan to Arsenal from Bayern Leverkusen. So he knows that side and they know him. So definitely a little interesting wrinkle there. But that's all I had in this one. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like. Again, if you enjoy this type of content, feel free to subscribe. We're going to be putting out a prediction video, so be on the lookout for that. This is, again, more just of a preview. Drop your thoughts down below in the comments. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking. Again, we have really a little under 2 weeks before these games are actually even being played, so we have plenty of time to discuss this. My TikTok will be in the description down below if you want to check out any of my short-term content. And if you made it this far in the video, I greatly appreciate you. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, guys.